Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. John Kelly, profiler here, and welcome. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be focusing on addiction. I really believe that addiction is the worst serial killer. I think addiction takes more lives than all serial killers combined out there in the course of a year. Easy. And I really believe addiction's debt's best friend. I truly believe that because we see it all the time. Friends, family, loved ones, just unbelievable how much of a killer it is. I believe it's the worst serial killer. What I want to do today is I want to put some education out there, based on my strength, hope, experience, and professionalism. Before I got into the realm of serial murder and criminal profiling, I was an addiction specialist for many years, and I was director of a counseling center for many, many decades. And we had some unbelievable experience there. Great experiences. We saw a lot of people get well, a lot of people get better, a lot of families come together. And really we saw people climb out of their addictions and really start to enjoy life again. So we want to pass some of that on to you today, because I think it's only important knowing that addiction is a major killer. It's a major killer out there. It's not talked about enough, I don't think. And it's definitely I believe that's best friend and the worst serial killer. In talking about it, I want to thank you all for your positive feedback on my book, Discovering Lazarus. It's about my life. Discovering Lazarus focuses on the good, the bad, and the ugly of John Kelly. And I was an addict. I was a cocaine addict before I decided to get help and get into treatment. And then I went back to school and worked my way up the ladder to where I'm at today. The gist of that story is that if I can do it, you can do it. Okay, there's no question about it. From my brothers and sisters that are out there suffering, believe me, there's hope. You just got to get sober. You're really not going to go very far if you're not sober, clean and sober, right? So anyway, with that out there, I was even looking at Liam Payne, quite a singer, and Matthew Perry, great actor. I mean, I look at these guys, and you probably look at them too. I mean, they had everything to live for. They're very successful, did very well in life, but yet their addictions killed them. Their addictions destroyed them. All right. And I'll tell you something else about them. I will guarantee you in their minds that they were consistently beating themselves up. Okay. They were consistently criticizing themselves in their minds. No question about it, because that's what drives addiction as far as I'm concerned. I really believe that addicts are the biggest critics. Nobody can criticize addicts worse or beat them up worse than they do it to themselves in their own minds. They are their biggest critics. Take my word for it. You may not see it out front. They may not wear it, on their front sleeve, but I will guarantee you that's what's going on in their minds. From years and years of experience, I've seen this. And again, we're not advising you to do anything. We're just educating you on what we have seen, what I've seen over decades being in the field, and which led me into, becoming a criminal profiler and serial murder. Because let's face it, if a serial killer cannot stop killing, guess what? Just like a heroin addict can't stop doing heroin, serial killer can't stop killing. He's addicted to what? Killing. Like the heroin addict's addicted to heroin. So more on that will be coming. But that's how I, through my research, ended up as a criminal profile. And Leah, I know you have some questions today,
Yeah.
about addiction. Go for it.
All right, John. Yeah. So I'd love to pick your brains here. Can you tell me how do you stop an adolescent from becoming an addict? That's the root here. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, that's where you wanna stop. I think the most important thing is time being spent with the adolescent. With mom and dad or whoever the caretaker is. I think that's invaluable. They talk about quality time. As far as I'm concerned, any time spent with the children is quality time. And by spending the time with them, you get a real good feel and you get to see what's going on with them. And if you see them start to head down a road that you think could be self destructive, at that point in time, you can intervene and, start to put the brakes on.
Right. Now, how would you recommend, parents intervene? What's the strategy?
Well, I think there's different strategies. I think the first strategy is to have a talk with the child. I think it's very important for both parents to do an intervention, sit down, have a good family chat about, what's going on, why you feel they're going in the wrong direction, why you feel they could be headed in a direction of self-destruction. And to try and talk calmly, but also logically to the child and see if that works, see if you can get through.
Mhm.
Then the one thing you want to stay away from is really criticizing. I think talking calmly and logically is the most important way. And then maybe setting some consequences and boundaries. But criticism and criticizing somebody and berating somebody really does not work in my years of experience. It may work for here and there, a very, very, very small percentage, but for the most part, criticizing and berating a child because of their substance abuse or the use or who they're hanging around with or whatever really usually doesn't work. What I've seen work are a clear setting of consequences and boundaries.
Right. Okay. So, John, can you tell me more about your theory of low self-esteem in the beginning of addiction? What's that about?
Well, when you look at when I wrote that, and it took a few years to even write that, and then it became a book, Warning Signs: A Guidebook for Parents. But and that was 20 some years ago. Um, the major focus was I realized that people that were abusing and addicted, and especially addicted, were their biggest critics. So when you look at a low self-esteem, that's putting it mildly. What you're looking at is somebody entertaining various thought distortions. A lot of them aren't real, okay, but thoughts create feelings, right? So if you think something, and if it's a self-criticizing, negative, distorted kind of thought, if you think it, you'll feel it, right? So if you're constantly entertaining those kinds of thoughts all day, then guess what? You're going to feel really uncomfortable, and you're probably going to want to pick something up to make you feel better, to make you feel good. Like every addict I've ever interviewed, and I've said, well, why are you using? I'm using to get high. What do you mean get high? What does that mean? To feel good. To feel good? Why don't you feel good already? I'm trying to get them, I know where they're coming from, but I'm trying to get them to see it and to answer. Why don't they feel good without drugs? Because that's the question. Right? Why do they need drugs to feel good? Okay,
Mhm.
high is not an answer. Okay, what do you get? What are you getting out of it? But then the other part of it too is if they are entertaining a low self worth, which they are, an addiction. There's no doubt in my mind. Okay. They're entertaining thoughts of inferiority, inadequacy, or insecurity, or all the above. And can you imagine walking around all day entertaining these thoughts, which create the feelings of you being inadequate or insecure or inferior? How do you, how can you feel good? How can you go through the day? Okay. And then all of a sudden you get some relief in the form of a drug. And it could be alcohol, right? Whatever works to take you out of that, what you believe is reality. And it's not really reality because these are distorted thoughts. Okay. They're just being conjured up by your mind. And the more you use, the more thoughts, negative, criticizing thoughts you'll have, the guiltier you'll feel, so the more you'll use, the more inadequate you feel, so the more you'll use. The more insecure you feel, the more you'll use because you don't want to feel that way. The drugs are soothing. They're soothing that pain, if you will. Okay, so that's something to look at. That was behind my theory when I wrote it, and the theory worked out very well, and the book worked out very well. And we put our theory to work and into practice at the counseling center, and it worked out very well. I mean, worked out very well. To get people to realize that these thoughts are coming out of left field, and they have to check in on these thoughts, and they have to see if they're facts or if they're fiction. And 90%, 90% of the time, they're fiction. They're not factual thoughts that are creating these extremely negative feelings that need to be medicated, so to speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, and you can see that. I'm sure a lot of adolescents are going through a lot of different life changes. So, John, you mentioned earlier to me the hierarchy in the family. What do you mean by that when it comes to parents? You know,
Well, the way we looked at it, and it worked out very well, the way we had it set up and focused, we focused on the mother and father being the king and queen of the house. They're the hierarchy of the family, mom and dad. Okay. And they're the ones that need to set the rules, okay, for the children to follow in the house. I mean, that's the way it works. It's the way it's supposed to work. It didn't work the way I was growing up, but this is the way healthy families are supposed to work. Okay. And, the children follow the rules of the parents. It's that simple. So the parents really need to set down the rule that they will not allow substance abuse or addiction or any kind of self-destruction to go on under their roof. It will not be tolerated. Okay. And they won't accept it. Okay. So it has to be nullified right then and there. We're the parents, we set the rules, and it's very important mom and dad agree on the rules. And this is how you need to work within the house and the house's rules. Because every parent pretty much in every state is actually responsible for their child, I believe, until their child gets to 18. I know in Jersey it's 18. Okay. So, and my theory and our theory in the center was, I don't care how old you are, if you're living under your parents' roof, you're getting 3 hots in a cot. Okay. I mean, they call the shots. If you're living under their house, you're living under their rules. So you've got to follow through. And usually parents are going to set down rules that are going to be productive and help their child have a happy, healthy, and successful life, usually.
okay, so John, can you tell me now, what if the child is not living at home? Or let's say they went off to college, maybe they're going to get addicted there, or they're already addicted. Can you tell me more about what happens in that situation?
It's rough when the child's not at home and they're off to college or wherever and they're abusing substance. There's no question about it. That could be a parent's worst nightmare because they can't see what's going on. And they're only, getting a phone call here or there, maybe a Zoom just to, keep them up to date. But again, you don't know, if the child's telling the truth or not, right? And uh, you're getting information from the school through their grades. The grades aren't that great. They're missing some classes. Um, Definitely not accomplishing what they could or normally accomplish. So the signs are starting to appear that they're going down the wrong road. Okay. So what can a parent do at that point in time? Well, lots of times parents are in a quandary. They can't, you know, uh, uh, have the kid kicked out of college. That's what they've paid for. They don't want him kicked out of college or her, right? But they want to get her back or him back on track. They want to get their child back on track. So how do they do that? Well, usually the parents are paying for the phone, okay? And usually the parents are paying for the tuition at the school. Usually they're sending the money so they can live on. So usually the parents are the child's financial lifeline. So as long as the child is in school, they're away from the house, they're out of the house, they're on their own, but they need money to exist. Okay. They need their bills paid. They don't want to be without a phone. They don't want to tell their friends that their phone privileges were taken away and their parents stopped paying their phone because they're using or they believe they're abusing drugs and going down the wrong road. So, you know, this can be a boundary or a consequence. Okay. If you're not going to get on the right track, if you're not going to put the effort into it that we're paying for, then we're going to set these consequences. Okay. And lots of times kids don't want to leave the school. They don't want to leave their friends. So now they're kind of in a quandary. Do I cut back on my partying? Do I stop my partying? If I don't stop my partying, my parents are going to stop it for me and they're not going to pay for the next semester, or they're going to make me come home, or they're not going to pay for my car. Maybe I have a car. They're not going to pay for the car. They're going to take my phone privileges away. Yeah, so you have the parents paying for the car, they're paying for the phone, they're paying for the tuition. They are the child's financial lifeline. So if the child wants to stay in school and be able to exist, okay, they're going to be facing a consequence, and the parents have set a boundary. And I find that to be the most helpful. To be the most helpful. I'm not saying, you know, take the kid out of school, but I'm saying do not reward negative self-destructive behavior. If you feel your child is self-destructing, don't reward it. Don't give him a reward for self-destructing.
Mhm.
There should be a consequence for self-destructive behavior from your child. He may not realize he's hurting himself or she's hurting himself, but you do. And that's why you're the parent. And that's why you need to set that consequence and that boundary
Mhm.
to protect your child. You have to do it out of love because you care about them. So I find that when parents do realize that getting angry and criticizing their child, for days and times and trying to send them on guilt trips, it only makes it worse. It only makes them want to use more. It only makes them want to alienate more. So I think by being openly nice and logical and willing to have a logical conversation with them anytime they'd like, is the way to handle it, along with logically setting, boundaries and financial consequences if you have to, to let the child know and feel some uncomfortability that
Mhm.
the way they're living is not what you want and it's not right and they're hurting themselves. So even though they don't believe they are, but you're creating some kind of financial uncomfortability to try and get them back on the right track. For criticism, I mean, they'll end up beating themselves up enough in their own head. They don't need somebody adding to it. It just never really seems to work. I really prefer to see some boundaries set and consequences if needed.
Mhm. Definitely good advice there, John. Very good. Got to give him some tough love. So I
Tough
think those
love,
are
that's right. Tough love.
that's what I got for today on you. You have a
Okay.
wealth of knowledge though, so I'd love to pick your brain again.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it again because we have a lot of information we want to get out there. And again, like I said, the worst serial killer, as far as I'm concerned, is addiction. And you have to go through use and abuse to become addicted. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight. It's an overtime ritual kind of thing. That's very, very deadly and killing a lot of people. A lot of people. So, with all that being said, thank you so much, Leah. Thank you so much to the folks out there, our audience. They're fantastic. If they have any comments, please send them our way. We'll be more than happy to answer them. Um, if you like what we had to do today, it was a little different. Let us know. If you want to subscribe. We're going to be doing some more here, some more there, because as you realize, not all the time there is a true crime thriller to be put out there. So, we do want to, stay relevant and stay connected to you. So we try to put out different things we think can be helpful as well. With all being said, take care of yourself. Have a great day. Most importantly, stay safe out there. We live in a violent world. And until next time, God bless. Take care now.
Yep. Thanks, John.